Ever wonder how a simple soup mix can ruin a relationship? My ex decided to cook dinner for once, picking a just add water soup mix. I left her to it, expecting an easy meal. When I returned, the kitchen was a disaster. 8 quarts of water in the pot instead of 8 cups. She swore she followed the recipe, but her excuse? I didn't know cups and quarts were different. I was floored. But what happened next was even wilder, revealing a truth I never saw coming. Here's how it went down. What's the wildest cooking fail you've ever witnessed? Buckle up, because I've got a story that'll make you laugh and shake your head. A while back, I was living with my ex, and let's just say the kitchen was my domain. I loved whipping up meals, while she was more of a microwave maestro. But one evening, she decided to take the culinary wheel and make dinner. Her pick? A no-brainer soup mix. You know, the kind where you just add water and stir. Sounded foolproof, right? Oh, how wrong I was. I figured I'd let her have her moment and stepped out to tackle some chores. About 10 minutes later, I swung back to grab a beer and, holy smokes, the kitchen looked like a soup tsunami hit it. My 8-quart Instant Pot was bubbling away, filled to the brim with what looked like a lake of broth. I peeked at the soup mix packet. Add 8 cups of water. Simple enough. But my ex? She dumped in 8 quarts. That's like 4 times too much. I couldn't help but chuckle and asked, "Babe, did you check the recipe?" She nodded confidently, saying she followed it to a T. Here's where it gets good. When I pointed out the cups versus quarts mix-up, she blinked and said, "Wait, those are different." I nearly spit out my beer. This woman, mid-30s, with a cabinet full of measuring cups and Google at her fingertips, had no clue. I was torn between laughing and framing the moment as a comedy sketch. Instead of getting mad, I just pictured her trying to serve us soup in buckets like we were feeding a football team. Looking back, I gotta say, it's these quirky moments that make relationships memorable. I mean, who hasn't had a kitchen flop that turned into a story for the ages? That night didn't end with a gourmet meal, but gave me a good laugh and a tale I'll never forget. So what happened next? Well, let's just say the soup wasn't the only thing that got stirred up. Ever had a kitchen moment that made you question reality? Picture this. A simple soup night that turned into a comedy goldmine. I was living with my ex, and cooking was usually my jam. She'd rather cheer from the sidelines and wield a spatula. But one evening, she decided to step up and make dinner with a foolproof soup mix. I thought, sweet, I'll let her shine. So I left her to work her magic in the kitchen while I tackled some stuff around the house. What could go wrong with a just add water recipe, right? Oh, buckle up. 10 minutes later, I strolled back for a cold one, and good grief, it was like walking onto the set of a cooking catastrophe. My trusty 8-quart Instant Pot was practically groaning, filled to the brim with what looked like a small pond of broth. I glanced at the soup mix packet, which clearly said, add 8 cups of water. That's about 2 liters, no biggie. But my ex? She'd gone full-on aquatic adventure and poured in 8 quarts. We're talking nearly 8 liters of water. I stood there, jaw dropped, picturing us ladling soup for a whole neighborhood block party. Trying not to crack up, I asked, "So, how's the soup going?" She grinned, totally proud, like she just invented the wheel. When I gently mentioned the cups versus quarts thing, her eyes widened and she laughed. "Wait, those aren't the same?" I couldn't hold it in. I burst out laughing, imagining us sipping broth from gallon jugs for weeks. Honestly, I've had my share of kitchen flops, like the time I turned pancakes into hockey pucks, so I felt her. These moments, they're the spice of life, the stories you tell over beers with friends. That soup saga became an instant classic in my book, a reminder that even the simplest plans can go hilariously off the rails. And trust me, the night didn't end there. Things got even wilder. So, how we handle the great soup flood? Let's just say it was a recipe for chaos. Ever had a moment where you just had to laugh to keep from crying? Let me take you back to a soup fiasco that still cracks me up. So, my ex was in the middle of her big chef moment, stirring up a soup mix in our kitchen. I'd left her to it, but when I popped back in for a beer, I nearly did a double take. The soup in my 8-quart Instant Pot looked like it was auditioning for a lake scene, way too watery. I sneaked a peek at the packet, which said clear as day, add 8 cups of water. Curious, I raised an eyebrow and asked, "Hey, how's the recipe going?" My ex, bless her heart, beamed like she nailed it and said, "Oh, I followed it exactly." I couldn't help but grin, picturing a slurping soup from buckets. Gently, I pointed out that the pot was swimming with 8 quarts. Like, 4 times too much water? She blinked, tilted her head, and dropped the bombshell. "Wait! Cups and quarts aren't the same thing?" I froze, then burst out laughing so hard I almost dropped my beer. I mean mid-30s, with measuring cups in every drawer and Wi-Fi to spare, and she'd miss that memo? It was like watching a sitcom unfold in my own kitchen. I've had my own kitchen disasters. Don't ask about the time I turned brownies into charcoal, so I couldn't judge too hard. Honestly, those mix-ups are what make life colorful. I could have gotten annoyed, but instead, I just imagined us hosting a soup-themed pool party. It was one of those moments you file away under stories to tell forever. Looking back, I think it's these goofy hiccups that remind us to roll with the punches and find the humor in chaos. That soup wasn't the only thing brewing that night, though. Things were about to get even more interesting. So, what happened when we tried to salvage that soupy mess? Stick around for the rest. What do you do when a pot of soup turns into a full-blown comedy show? I'm still chuckling over this one wild night with my ex, where a simple dinner plan went hilariously off the rails. After discovering her epic soup mix-up, 8 quarts of water instead of 8 cups, turning our dinner into a broth ocean, I was left standing in the kitchen, beer in hand, wondering how to pivot. The soup was more like a hot tub than a meal, but instead of diving into fix-it mode, I just soaked in the absurdity. I mean, how do you even start to salvage a soup that's practically a lake? I could have played Chef Hero, tossing in potatoes or noodles to thicken it up, but honestly, the moment was too funny to interrupt. My ex was still stirring away, oblivious to the culinary chaos, and I didn't have the heart to burst her bubble. I kept picturing us serving soup a la swimming pool to imaginary guests, maybe with floaties for garnish. Looking back, I realized I didn't need a perfect dinner that night. What I got was a story that's been making my friends howl with laughter ever since. I've had my own kitchen flops, like the time I invented glow-in-the-dark cupcakes with way too much food coloring. So I know these mishaps are just life's way of keeping us humble. Instead of a grand rescue, I leaned into the moment, letting it become a snapshot of our quirky life together. It wasn't about fixing the soup. It was about seeing the humor in our imperfections. That night taught me that sometimes the best win is just rolling with the punches and finding joy in the chaos. I think we all have those moments where plans flop, but they end up being the stories we treasure most. That soupy saga didn't wrap up with a gourmet meal, but it set the stage for even more surprises. So, what happened when we finally faced that watery disaster? You want to hear this next part. Ever wonder what a pot of soup can teach you about life? Let me rewind to a night that started with a simple dinner plan and ended with a belly laugh and a light bulb moment. My ex's attempt at making soup had just gone gloriously awry. 8 quarts of water instead of 8 cups, turning our meal into a broth jacuzzi. As I stood there, staring at the watery chaos, I could have gotten frustrated, but instead, I saw the comedy gold in it. My ex, still stirring like a proud chef, had no idea she'd just invented the world's most hydrated soup. At first, I thought maybe she leaned into the mix-up on purpose, like she was auditioning for a Whoops, I Tried sitcom, when she shrugged and said, "Cups, quarts, same difference, right?" I nearly choked on my beer, picturing us sipping soup from rain boots for weeks. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized it wasn't about dodging chores or fibbing. It was just a classic kitchen fumble. I've had my own disasters, like the time I spiced up chili with cinnamon instead of cumin. So I'm no stranger to culinary faceplants. Those moments, they're what make us human, and they're the stories we laugh about later. That night, I learned to let go of expecting perfection and just embrace the hilarity of life's curveballs. Sure, the soup was a bust, but it gave me a memory I wouldn't trade. A snapshot of 2 people trying to navigate a kitchen and a relationship, one goofy mistake at a time. I think we all have those moments that seem like deal breakers, but end up teaching us to find joy in the mess. Looking back, that night was less about soup and more about seeing the bigger picture. Love, laughter, and learning to roll with it. That soupy catastrophe wrapped up more than just a wet kitchen. It sparked something unexpected. So, what happened after we faced that broth-tastrophe? Let's just say the story is not over yet. Remember that wild soup saga? My ex's attempt at dinner turned into a hilarious flop when she mistook 8 cups for 8 quarts, creating a broth ocean. Instead of frustration, I found humor in the chaos, learning that life's mishaps, like kitchen disasters, teach us to laugh and let go. It's a reminder that relationships thrive on patience and shared giggles, not perfection. Next time you face a flop, embrace the story it'll become. Reflect on your own quirky moments. What do they teach you about finding joy in the mess? Life's best lessons often come from the silliest mistakes.
Thanks for listening to my story. It's been a heavy one to share. I'm still figuring out what comes next, but having you here means a lot. If you connected with this, please hit that subscribe button for Life Reflections. I'd love to have you along for more real moments like this. Take care, everyone.